Just a second, wait for, all right. Don't wait for that. All right, where are we at? 6:32. Calling to order the Board of Selectmen regular meeting of August 4th, 2025, at 6:30 p.m. You'd join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There a motion to approve the minutes of July 21st?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 20.
I second that motion.
Do I have any discussion?
No, we're good.
Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, unanimous. Present to speak, public participation is encouraged. Speakers are limited by appropriateness, staying on topic and maintaining decorum. Time may be limited to maintain progress. Please request to reserve time during the meeting if you wish to speak to a specific agenda item. Is there anybody in the room wishing to speak? It's you, sir.
Orlando Rodriguez, I'd like to speak about
Your address, please.
50 Timber Lane,
50 Timber Lane, go ahead.
and I'd like to speak about a document that's been circulated with the town poverty rate on it.
Okay,
When we talk, it's a misleading number. I just downloaded these documents today, and it shows Wellington's poverty rate at 15%, which is much too high. What you have to take into account is that we have university students who live in Wellington in the apartments, and that is artificially raising the poverty rate of this town. If you want a comparison, we can look at Mansfield. The same source shows Mansfield's poverty rate at 22%, which is very high. That means 1 out of every 5 people in Mansfield is in poverty, which is unrealistic. You have to take into account all the university students that live in Mansfield. We either have no income or very low income, which is skewing that poverty rate higher. If you want to know what the true, well, not the true poverty rate, but what a poverty rate in Wellington might be if we didn't have the students, you could look at, let's say, Union. It's 7%. Holland, it's 6%. Chaplin is 7%. Coventry is 4%. So that 15% number just isn't realistic, and we have to keep that in mind whenever we talk about the town's social economics.
thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Michelle Doucette Cunningham, 41 Liska Road. I would like to request that the Board of Selectmen use a little bit more care when preparing their agendas for the meetings. Care in that you don't use any abbreviations that the average person might not know. It is not in this one back
Okay.
was AOC, which I had to look up. So this is a communications document. You should think of it that way, that this is a way for you to communicate to the townspeople what you're considering or what you're thinking about. And a little bit more information would be really helpful, both in terms of describing something more than just a town ordinance discussion. What kind of a town ordinance? You know, a little bit more information would have made it more interesting to prepare for. I know, right? So especially under new business, when there's new pieces in there. I also think that we're sometimes a little too informal. You reference data provided by Tammy. I'm sure State Representative Tammy Nuccio would like her whole name mentioned when you do that, instead of using just the informal. I recognize we're not a large crew here, and most people are gonna know who you're referencing, but still, for those who don't, it would really behoove them to know who the information came from. So if you would just use it more as a communication vehicle, I think it would help all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Good evening, guys. James Marshall, 46 Fisher Hill Road. I serve as the chair of the CIP committee in town, and I'm reaching out in that capacity of this today. Just as another reminder that the CIP committee has requests in to work to establish joint meetings to work towards some form of a comprehensive capital and financial plan that ahead of the upcoming budget season. I know we just wrapped one, but those budget discussions start in, everybody knows, 5 months. It would be good so that we don't have the same back and forth and lack of effectiveness due to what the committee believes is a non-comprehensive approach to both capital spending and financial planning in town, that we have these discussions. And this is going on about 2 months now. I haven't gotten any response for the committee from this board related to working to set those up. So I'd urge you guys to consider it, and the committee thanks you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else?
Well,
Ralph, do you have your hand raised? Oh,
Do.
there we go. Hi, Ralph.
Good evening, everyone. I was reviewing the debt policy limit or debt policy document that was attached to the minutes of the last meeting, and I noticed a typo on the top of page 7. I don't know if you all have that handy.
I do, as a matter of fact.
Okay, if you look at the line that starts with B, debt as a percentage of the budget, the word recommend should be recommended. Just a typo error, that's all.
Yeah, I got it as recommendation.
Well, then maybe you have a more recent document than I'm looking at.
I'm looking at one as of 7/10.
Well, this was attached to the minutes, so maybe it was copied and pasted from whatever
All
document.
right. Yeah, all
Okay.
right, we will look into it and make the appropriate corrections.
Okay, that's all I had.
Anyone else online? Seeing no bit online, second chance, anybody in the room? Seeing no more raised hands in the room. We will move on to correspondence. I don't believe we have any correspondence other than the regular reports. Wait a second, I might have some. Yes, we received a letter as of 2 weeks ago. The Veterans Day Committee meeting. Will be observing Veterans Day in the town of Mansfield this year. And especially recognizing our Vietnam War veterans. So our that was one piece of information. And I think that covers that. Public Works report. Is the door locked?
yeah, I don't know how to unlock.
Yeah, it's locked.
Here,
It always is. If you
thank you. I'll wait till you get back.
We're doing approval of, Public Works report.
Thank you.
Yeah, you
You did
you
it?
put it on one side, then flip it over and put it on the other,
Yeah.
generally.
It finally beat twice stage meeting.
Oh, good. Works. they're continuing the roadside mowing. For some reason, the vegetation has gotten out of hand this year with particularly the bittersweet vines. So they've, been making sure all their signs are readable. They're working on the Hall Memorial, redoing the soccer field. They're patching the road, edges from storm washouts. They're picking up wood from the dead tree removal and making sure our waterways are flowing. We've done some chip sealing, and they're, sweeping after that. The town hall has, moved to what they call a dismounted delivery, where the postman actually gets out of the truck and comes in to visit us. We had some concerns regarding, security, so that would absolutely the most secure way and by far the cheapest way of getting that done. So they've removed the mailboxes in front of the town hall. They're working on vehicle maintenance. They've been emptying the trash from our parks. Due to the recent storm damage, they're sweeping the roads and clearing the drains. They've reset multiple stop signs in town that were knocked over. They did some work for the town clerk, installing cabinet locks to make sure our documents are secure. And they helped the finance department move a lot of records. And then they're doing regular cleanup at the garage.
That tree stuff, Pete,
Yeah,
we had, a little while ago, we had storms, did we have any idea of how we are doing on our trees? There's been a disease infestation.
yeah, we've got a problem with that. We currently have the tree removal service in town for this week. We pay by the day, so what Troy does to minimize cost to the town is he works up an entire day's worth of work before he calls them in. Because whether they're here for 2 hours or 8 hours, we pay them the same, so he wants to make sure that they have at least 8 hours of work. Today, the tree removal service started down on Daleville. They're working up Daleville to Old Farms and up Old Farms. There's a number of dead trees that were hanging over the lines. So they're working on that.
Our budget next year for tree removal is, I think, 70,000.
70,000, it's identical to last year and the year before. I think that we will try to keep up with that.
Yep.
We'll see what happens. The tax refunds. We have no tax refunds, no tax refunds. We are bringing in taxes. Our tax collector has been extremely busy. We're currently in the process of finding an assistant tax collector. We have more interviews tomorrow.
Yeah. Interview 1 or 2, and then we have 1 or 2 more, right?
Is it 2 or 3?
I've reached out to 3.
All right, hopefully we'll find somebody good for that position.
Anybody has any recommendations? That'd be good. Your friends and relatives, send emails, send texts.
And well, I think what we're gonna try to do is get through the people that filed before the closing, and then if we can't find somebody, we'll reopen it. And we should be opening, for the replacement at the recreation director, assistant recreation director. Which I believe is fewer hours per week, it's like 10 or something.
I think it's 8.
8.
or 10.
It's in the budget for 10, I believe.
I think so too, yeah. Some numbers stick in my head.
I know, and some
not
don't,
so
I
much.
get it.
So first selectman status report. Let's see here. We have been informed by the Connecticut Siting Council that they're considering a 10-acre solar farm on Liska Road, if I remember correctly. if you've never dealt with the siting council, when you do so, you're in for a treat. We had very, very little input over them. At a certain point, you can file legal papers to be a
Intervenor or something?
intervener, right? And I was talked to Mike and he said statistically in Connecticut, if you intervene on a solar project, it costs approximately $40,000 in legal bills, and not once has intervening been approved, so. At this point, I believe that we should keep our powder dry on that.
Pete, do you have a more exact address for that?
I do. It's 41 to 43 Losi Road.
It's not Lisco.
It's an 18.4 acre parcel. What?
That's an L. I'm at 41 Liska, and first we said Liska, which is my
Oh,
house,
Losi.
and I think I would have noticed that.
No,
there
no,
were
it's
citing
Losi
things in my
Road.
house. Okay.
If they bulldozed your house for a solar
I
farm,
would-
you'd notice.
I think it would be worth the 40,000
Sorry.
at that point.
My error.
Okay.
41 to 43 Losi.
For you.
It's up near I-84, and if the information I've given is correct, it's not too far from I-84.
Hey, Pete,
Yes, sir.
that is the Christmas tree farm at the top of the hill on Losi coming up from Kutzko Road.
Okay. That's what I was about to say, is I was told that it was a Christmas tree farm.
Okay.
Were you growing Christmas trees?
No, I just was
No,
curious,
I was
cause.
talking Ralph. Yeah. So there's that, also. There was when it comes to DOT will be putting down a special, surface saver. From what I understand, it's a thin layer that's extra grippy. Make the pavement last longer on Route 32 from 74 to Stafford. We are one of 8 or 9 roads in the state that's getting this installed. Again, it's from DOT, it's their road, we really don't have a lot to say about it. They are also painting wider edge markings on the horizontal curves on rural state-owned lane roads, so they'll be working on routes 32, 74, and 320. They're going from a 4-inch wide stripe to a 6-inch wide stripe, as I understand it, and it should be more reflective. Hopefully, this will cause people to turn. Instead of going off the road. We are currently renewing our insurance for volunteers that work for the town. I believe that what this does is it protects the town and the volunteers, particularly in natural disasters. This is a program that was initiated under Chairman, First Selectman Mallows, Christina. I can't say her last name right. Yeah, and I've been told that 75 times. You're telling me again, didn't get help, nothing. Sorry. Unfortunately, we missed a year on this because the email was being sent to both my predecessor and one of the employees that doesn't work for us anymore, so it took us a while to catch up. I think that covers that. New business. What we're all waiting for, the discussion of the ordinance changes. So, well, the reason I didn't add more to it is because these are very small changes to a couple ordinances. What happens is the state goes over our ordinances periodically and suggests changes. We cannot change them here. This needs to go to town meeting. But what I wanted to do was discuss it before it went to town meeting. We're not even calling this for a town meeting. I want to discuss it at least 2 Board of Selectmen meetings, so that people know what's going on. The first one is, the ordinance making leased property by the town from, let me make sure I get the, so if you're a nonprofit organization which leases its property back to the town, you're exempt from property tax. That way the town doesn't pay more for the lease so that the nonprofit can pay the town back for the. What you're doing is you're trying to keep the circle, entering the spin. So the one line that they wanted to, when this was first enacted, there was a line that said shall encompass the fiscal year July 2015 to 2016 tax billing, so that we knew when to start it. That no longer applies, so we would take out and shall encompass that, the rest of that sentence. Change 1. Change 2. To be in compliance with Connecticut General Statute 113, section 113-7. Our current competitive bid requirement says the price of which is in excess of $5,000 shall be put out to competitive bid. The law changed from 5,000 to 50,000. So the state is suggesting we move it from 5,000 to 50,000 to come in compliance with state law.
What's the number?
The
113-7, you mean?
our ordinance or the,
Yeah, our ordinance.
our ordinance, it doesn't really, we're on volume 5, page 282, and volume 7, page 14. Our ordinances don't have individual ordinance numbers.
Really?
Yeah, that, all right, that surprised me too, but you can't interrupt 350 years of progress here.
Right.
So that's ordinance change number 2. Ordinance change number 3 has to do with any veteran entitled to an exemption from property tax in accordance with subdivision 19 of section 12-81 of the general statutes of Connecticut, general statutes of the state of Connecticut. So it's on a schedule. The schedule changes yearly. The ordinance says, shown on the schedule hereto attached to the incorporated herein. We do not reattach, rewrite, that would require us to revoke the veterans exemption ordinance every year to attach it. So what they are suggesting is to take out the sentence shown on the schedule hereto attached and incorporated herein to the annual schedule will be on file and available at the Wellington office of the assessor. So far, these have made sense to me. And the last one is not from the state, it's from me. The Solid Waste Advisory Commission ordinance, volume 7, page 13. This was established. I'm not sure what year it was established. Let me look. It was adopted in 1988, and it was amended in 95 and amended again in 96 and amended again in 2013. I am suggesting that we delete this ordinance. There has been no activity on this board since 2017. There are no current members of the board, and all of the things that this board is scheduled to do have been taken over by, our regional waste facility and state law. So there's no work for the committee left to do. And I'm suggesting we rescind the ordinance just to clean up the books. Are there any questions
What
on
is it
that?
called again? I mean, the group,
The solid waste or advisory committee? I was one of the original members of that committee, and we had a number of topics that we were discussing. Composting, paid bags, et cetera, and all of those things. In fact, I was just advised by Kerma that our insurance will increase dramatically if we go to a paid bag system. Because it changes the relationship between the person buying the bag and the transfer station.
Not consideration.
You're now not considered a citizen you're now considered a customer. So
Did I hear you correctly? Did that start in 1988?
it was first, 1988, but nothing has been done with that committee since. Sorry, I believe 2007.
You were a founding member.
I was, yeah. Well, I wasn't on it in '88. I was appointed by Christina. So. There's that.
Pete, do you
Are there any
think,
questions?
I was just wondering, do you think that conservation and why some of the sort of environmental community or environmental groups might have any interest in that?
There's, like I said,
There's
there's
nothing.
nothing we can do because.
No, they're there.
It's all been taken over by mid-year rock and state law. So, you know, we all would like to do a lot of things about a lot of things, but state law says no.
Back in '88, we were all concerned about what we're gonna do with all the garbage.
Yeah.
I think the state law for the 50,000 for going out to bid is their suggested minimum. It does not mean that we have to keep that as our minimum. We could go lower than that. Is that a correct
I
interpretation?
believe you're correct. But I'm going with, the reason I'm going with 50,000 is that's their suggestion.
Right.
I think that's something that needs to be discussed in town meeting.
Can that be changed in town meeting, Pete?
I don't know. I will look into that.
Motion from the floor.
Well, I think what would have to do, unfortunately, what would have to happen is it would have to lose and then we try again,
I got it.
just like we do
Might
with
be worth
last time.
having the discussion here for the
Right.
meeting before.
Yes.
It would be
But
interesting
seeing
to
as how this
see.
is the first time it's brought up,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that,
It makes a lot of sense. You sometimes spend more time getting bids than any
Yeah,
possible money. you can
particularly at
save on a
$5,000.
5,000. I'm not sure 50 is the right next jump. That's 10
I'm
times
thinking,
what it
yeah.
is now. But I'd love to hear from folks who do that, how much money, how much of a difference there is in the different bids at different amounts.
yeah, I was just looking at. Inflation rates. For a project that I'm working on. And $1 in 1990 is $4 now, so. It's not quite, you're correct, it's not 10 times, but it's,
20,000.
yeah, that would be 20,000.
Well, we can change it right now.
Well, yeah, what I wanna do is bring it up at this meeting,
Okay.
have people think about it. And then when we go for the call for the town meeting, and so if anybody has input, please contact my office or either of my selectmen to, let your voice be known. I think what it is, I think the reason it's 50,000 now is for vehicles. Because an average pickup truck right now, bottom of the line, 4-wheel drive pickup is about $40,000. So. If there's also going to the state bid and there's all kinds of. There's too many options, there's too many variables in the equation. So, I wanna put that out there so people start thinking about it. Next up, the, what did I do with my paperwork? Sorry, apologize.
11.
Yeah, the letter. Oh, here we go.
I say I put it right on top.
Yeah, well, I moved it out of the top. So the the Eastern Regional Tourism District. Was asking for representation from our town. And I've got a volunteer. So Joan Taraskowitz came in and talked to me for a while. I think she'd be a good selection for this. It's a volunteer position. They'll be working on tourism for the eastern region of Connecticut. So I would like to nominate Joan Taraskowitz to be appointed to the Eastern Regional Tourism District.
I'll second that motion.
Any?
How did you hear about it?
Oh,
I don't know how she heard about it, but when we researched it, we found out what it takes to put her on, and it requires a nomination and support from the Board of Selectmen and a letter written to a certain
She wants to.
format, and she would really like to do it. She's very interested in it. And she would like to work with the EDC on that.
Joan comes to all of our EDC, many of our EDC meetings, been
Joan
an
had a
asset.
lot of good things to say about you.
That's very nice. I have good things to say about her. She's very constructive, helpful, dedicated, willing to lend a hand. She'll be an asset to that board. It's unfortunate she can't volunteer inside of town as well. That'd be great. Yeah, this is really good.
All right.
Fully support.
And nothing else? Hearing more?
I don't know, Peter, can you hear me? It's
I can
Joan.
now. Oh, it doesn't say, it says Bill on the screen.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to work off Bill's tablet. I have a bee sting that I'm home nursing right now. I'm really
Oh.
swelling up. So anyways, my poor thing, but thank you very much for the nomination. I really appreciate it. It's nice of you to do that for me.
You're very welcome. So, hearing no more discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If you could make the appropriate copies and mailings. I apologize for this. I'm gonna go back one notch to the discussion on the solar farm as well as the battery, which are both Connecticut Siting Council projects in Wellington. Mike D'Amato, our land use guy, has set up information on the town website, both under the land use department page and the front page on siting councils and both these projects for people that are interested. So find this stuff afterwards. Advanced CT data from Representative Nuccio. Sorry, I see her a lot. As it's been pointed out, there may be difficulties in the data, skews from the university. However, I'm presenting the data as the state gave it to us. I don't have the technical ability to go through and make those changes, so.
So on the advanced CT, Tammy indicated that she thought it'd be a good idea for the different boards in town to take a look at that data from the census. And the advanced CT data extraction from the census. The 2020 census was impacted by COVID, so the reliability of it is a little less, it's the best we have. So it's the best data available to managers to help manage towns, cities, counties, and states. It's, it shows, I think, I'd like to leave this on again, we can for the next. I don't think you sent this to the sustainability group. Did you send that to them too? I don't know, I can't recall.
I don't know if they're on my district. No, I did not send it to Wise.
Maybe we can send it along.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's just a slip of my mind.
It's okay, we'll leave it on for a couple of weeks, or a couple of months. The poverty rate listed on there is going up by 1%. And as Mr. Rodriguez indicated, we have a student population here in town. I'm not sure, there's no way of knowing what it is. However, do you have any experience at all with advanced CT or anything like that? Maybe? That was
There's another way of looking at this. What they give you there is the median household income.
Yeah.
Household would include students,
Yeah.
which you look at as being family income,
Yeah.
which does not include students.
Yeah.
And then rank the town that way.
The other thing we can do, we can ask them, I mean, they serve us, we can ask them, although it's supposed to be for business development, not so much for, government planning, but I mean, we can ask them if they could look at students, and if there's a student head of household, take it out of the data. It's a big issue in our town because we're showing a very large poverty rate of 15%. And we don't know how many of those are students. If it is 15%, it's really large. So I can reach out to them and see whether or not they can look at that.
The other thing is that when you come here on a Wednesday for food share,
Yeah.
the amount of citizens we got coming in here, it's not all students.
Yeah.
I think we have a fairly high poverty rate.
Yeah, do you know where those people are coming from?
We don't, because we don't refuse food to people.
Right.
So.
But the food share truck goes to different towns, and so if we have people driving around different towns to get food, I'm guessing they need food, and I'm not going to go out there and ask them either, because I don't want it to appear to be a barrier to their getting.
There's another measure you can use. It's known as the adjusted equalized net grand list per capita. It's a mouthful. It's used by the state. And if you rank them from highest to lowest, the lowest is Hartford, which you would expect. Second lowest is Mansfield. We know Mansfield is not the second poorest town in the state. It's a population.
But the large portion of that is students that are. I understand the plans. But if we can take out student head of household or students in the household, that wouldn't work either, but if you can take out student head of household, that would tell you what the poverty rate is without students that are heading a household. So I'll check it into it and I'll let you know.
Actually, I was gonna do present to speak on this. I have some of this data with me at the end because I wanted to hear
What are
your
you doing?
discussion. Do you want me to,
Why don't we go into that now then?
is that okay?
Yeah, that would be fun.
Okay, because I made old fashioned copies for you guys on some of
Oh, excellent.
some of the things you're asking about.
Because some of this
Okay.
stuff, it's easier for me to look at than the.
Understood. So in a nutshell, and I can give them to you and then just point out the things that I thought were interesting that Orlando's talked about, because and some of the questions that Matt was just asking. So Steph Summers White Road. So the 2025 town socioeconomic profile is the one that's a year later than the one Tammy shared with the boards, or with you, Pete, and then with the boards. I'm on one of those boards and I didn't get it, but I did become
I think
aware.
it went out to you today.
Oh,
Later this afternoon,
just
I think I saw a copy of it going to you.
okay, and, anyway, so it reports our poverty rate at 15, as Matt was just saying, which in a town of our population size, means 825 people would live in poverty. And yet, it doesn't include Yukon students, which the census warns, as I think Orlando would refer to, that it artificially boosts the rate in a community like ours. So last week I talked to the Associate Dean of Students, John Armstrong at Yukon. And he oversees data for off-campus students. And he said that to Matt's point, the exact numbers aren't really tracked because off-campus students kind of are, at will can report where they live, but they don't have to. It's not like keeping track of the on-campus kids. They have like 24,000 students. He said half of them live off campus, and of the 12,000 that live off campus, 2,000 commute just from like parents' homes or somewhere where they already live. But the other 10,000 are spread out around towns, most predominantly Stores, Mansfield, and Willimantic, even Coventry and Wellington. He said had a much smaller share of them, but it turns out, he said, a very safe estimate is 600 students. And that if you take that off of that 825, it would reduce that 15% poverty rate to 4%. So that is in keeping pretty much with what Ashford is, which is a harder town to commute from. Geographically, it's just not as easy. And theirs is 5%. So that's sort of rang true in that comparison to me anyway. And then in addition, the census figures for residents in that 20 to 29 age group for our town is 25%. And there's several, like 9 or 10 age groups. So that's pretty much an outlier. The state average is 13%. And most of the other categories are around that, 12, 15% for each of those age group categories. So, I think, if it, 25% would represent about 1,400 people in our population of 5,500. So that's pretty significant. And I don't feel like we're producing that many 20-year-olds, 29-year-olds on our own motion. And anyway, our assessor told me that the residents, the rate of rentals among residences in town is at 35%, which is also kind of an outlier statistic compared to other towns around us.
High or low?
High. And when I was talking to John Armstrong, he said that just Wellington Oaks and Cedar Ridge alone kind of account for, he was thinking of them as far as estimating 600 students, but we know there's also, Deer Park and Laurel Pond and Walden and all those Woodhaven. So there's quite a few other places. So that even that 600 could be low. And that's why he said it was really safe. I said, please don't go too far, but can you give us an idea? And he was really, he said it's a conundrum for
The
them.
guy from you.
He's the associate dean that I conferred with, and he's responsible largely for off-campus students. So, and that includes, grad students and undergrad and non-degree students and, an array. Some of them are teaching assistants, that kind of thing. In our town too, fewer homeowners have a mortgage compared to statewide percentages. But the factor there is that more people have, especially in our older population, have paid off their mortgages and own their homes outright. Our number is higher for that compared to others around us. And then, like Orlando was talking about, we rank 129th of 169 towns under the equalized net grand list. And, you know, where 169 is the poorest, so, we, that's the calculator that decides our ECS funding. So it probably helps us out in our ECS funding, but, and then, and that's where he was pointing out, I think, to Mansfield ranks second lowest in the state at 168, so that's that impact. The median, family income in Wellington is 103,000, and that excludes college students, and that's, better than some of these other indicators, so I think most of that is in there. I thought, yeah, the statewide, there 40% of owner occupied housing units, not that are not apartments, don't have a mortgage, compared to about 33% statewide. So that's that level of owning rather than renting or paying on mortgage. So I think, and the other one that I thought was interesting was of those 17 towns that are comparable to each other socioeconomically, Wellington's taxes are quite low, ranking third from the bottom at about 6,000, and the high was 8,200 for 43. So
Okay,
I thought it might help.
The only concern I have is that UConn students, whether they are really poor or just making us look poor, still need to be housed. And that goes into low income housing units. And so how many low income housing units, do we want to build more low income housing units so we attract more students, or do we want to not? Can we support them? Do we have enough? So essentially what we're looking at is how much public water do we want to build? How much public sewer do we want to build? How much gas infrastructure do we want to build? How much public transportation do we want to fund? These are all numbers that are going to come into account, because whether they are not making money, but so if I make zero money and my dad is paying the $100,000, tuition bill, am I poor? All right, I'm not gonna make that judgment call, but so there's a lot of complications that go into this. If we call them below poverty, if they're not, or if we call them above poverty, if they're I don't know where it skews the other programs coming down from the state. What's gonna come down to incentives and disincentives, particularly with bills like 5002. So, or is it 3? Two.
But you're talking about two different things.
Yeah, no, but all these numbers make all the difference on all these things.
No, but I'm saying one issue is kind of the wealth of the town and how it's maybe skewed when people say we're 15% poverty rate. That sounds really pretty bad.
It does.
Considering the state is 10,
Right.
or is that what it is now? 10? Anyway, it's right around there.
So,
But as far as affordable housing goes, I think all these people in their 20s and up are having trouble finding housing that's affordable, and that's a chronic problem everywhere, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
So if it's okay with you, I'll reach out to the NCP
All right.
and see what I can do to try and figure some of this stuff out.
And-
The other things that Kenny brought up were that there's been a decline in population in Wilmington. We have fewer people living here, over the last 10 years. And we have declining test scores as well, in our schools. And these are, I'll be looking into it a little farther, and I'll call up the NCT so I can find out. Thank you for doing this, quite good. And we'll go from there.
Regarding the apartment population, it's a transient population, right? So they're not really vested in Wilmington. So you need to consider how much of that transient population, what people really don't care what happens.
I live across the street from two of those, and all the people in there are not students. Very low income people living in those places. And they're very expensive. And these people are eating up more than half of their monthly income in rent. It's very difficult, so. Let's continue the conversation.
Okay. And because I want to leave sometime tonight, let's move on to old business, the tax stabilization ordinance.
Oh, yes, I'm still reaching out to, I apologize, still reaching out to the, lawyer on tax stabilization. The copy that he sent me back for us to consider was too broad and gave the board of selectmen the power to formulate incentives no matter what they are. And I know that people in Wellington don't like that idea, and it probably wouldn't pass, so I sent it back with an instruction to include verbiage describing what tax stabilization means and what the parameters are, and then I'll bring that to the group and discuss it.
I had a brief discussion with this with Mike D'Amato today because of the solar farm. Green Energy in particular has a steep drop off in their equipment, what it's worth. And if that drop off is faster than our revals, we can end up in a lot of legal issues regarding assessment. So part of what the tax stabilization ordinance does is it allows you to discuss with these companies prior so that we know where they've made a commitment to the town so that we can figure out where the taxes are coming from. We don't have to fight them quite as often.
Yeah, what happens?
Because if we're making taxes, but we're spending them in court, it doesn't help us anymore.
Right, so what happens is you're locking them into a multi-year agreement on what their value of those assets are.
Mhm.
And they depreciate rapidly, especially with, I don't know about batteries, but with, as you said, with solar.
With the panels, yeah.
So we would avoid, what we're doing also, in addition to providing surety, I'm using the wrong word, but surety for us and surety for them, is we're also taking away the ability, the potential for getting sued about their assessments.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense, I think, for that tech. That's when I first heard about it, was when that battery was coming.
Yeah.
And who is going to have the skill to make that assessment 4 or 5 years from now?
Right,
It makes sense the way it was presented for the battery farm.
right, and we're locking the
Right.
taxpayer in, meaning that if something happens in the marketplace, all of a sudden battery values go right to the floor. It doesn't matter. You still
Right.
get.
We still get the, and I believe it was transactional. Each one would be, it isn't a blanket.
Right.
You don't have to do it to anybody. It's all.
Right.
It's all transactional, and there are inflation factors that can be, it's a negotiation with each individual company.
Yeah.
And that goes beyond the siting council too, which I thought was different. Like, we don't have any choice about where these.
No, we don't.
Siting is strictly siting,
Right,
but now we have a little bit of, I don't wanna call it leverage, at least now we have input into how things move forward. That seemed to be valuable.
yeah,
Could you share all of the stuff the attorney comes back with, just so,
sure.
just.
Yeah.
I mean, I trust you, I just like to read it myself, cause, thank you.
I'll send along the draft that they sent me.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So we are still working on that. Food and welfare. A number of things. First, I personally, and I'm sure the board would like to thank the Willow Valley Farm. They've been making significant vegetable donations to the bread share here in town every week to our citizens.
They're in Buscato, right? Is that Willow Valley?
I
Yes.
believe so, yes.
So, Neil, Billy Hill Farm and all that.
Yeah, they've been making, I've got a note from, my human services people that they've been making significant donations. The Wellington seniors will be having their inaugural fundraiser, and as soon as I get the exact date and time and what they're doing, I will be putting that out, on social media and hopefully the web page. They sent me a nice handout, but the bottom third of it was cut off, so we're gonna try that again. There's a blood drive at the senior center in honor of Betty Robertson on October 4th from 9 to 2.
It's good.
We like your blood.
Yeah.
We sent out the tax bill, now we're coming out. For those who were wondering about the debt limit policy and when that started, it's not something new. We first discussed it at this board on May 20th, and we've been working on it ever since. It's not something new. I regret to announce the resignation of Jeff Red Hansen from the Public Works. It'll be a large loss to the town. He sent me a very nice letter resigning. He's got an offer from a surrounding town that will help his career.
Effective when?
2 weeks from now. So we will be starting to look for a new mechanic driver. Jeff has a tremendous number of skills when we're trying to keep people from falling through the floor of the town office building here. He's the one that knew all the specs for getting the floor put back in so that we didn't fall through.
Do we have his telephone number? No.
Yes.
Our hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to Matt Carosi. His mother's house burnt to the ground out on Carosi Road in Ashford last weekend. And he lost, I believe, everything. There was no loss of life. And on that account, I'd like to thank both the Wellington Fire Departments that responded and provided mutual aid for that. More upbeat note, Stafford's referendum passed last Wednesday by 60 votes. So they now have a budget, so thank you for it. We're happy for our friends up in Stafford. I believe they had a 0.00% increase in their budget year over year. Or they only have one question. You wanna pass the budget or don't you? So they got that done and come on, I had an idea in my head. And it freaking died.
That's your first ball.
Yes, that I had an idea in my head.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, we are currently working with the towns of Stafford and Holland to provide a regionalized ACO, which will help us for more coverage. Animal control officer.
I did look it up, but
Sorry,
I had to look it up, so.
Some things, if you spend 14 hours, 15 hours in a meeting talking about ACOs, pretty soon you start calling them ACOs. Are regionalizing our animal control officer to provide a greater coverage 24/7. So instead of having one person in each town trying to provide 24/7 coverage, now you can spread that out. Your on-call costs go down, your equipment costs go down, your communication costs go down. Hopefully if you have all of your animals in one facility, you only have to you can have one person take care of all of them instead of running around to 3 or 4 towns to take care of them. So we are working on that. The CROG, the Capital Region Council of Governments, is strongly encouraging regionalization of ACOs, animal control officers, so that they have a program called RPIP, Regional Something Incentive Program, Regional Personnel Incentive Program.
Integration or something?
Yeah. They'll pay a lot of salaries to get the programs up and running to make sure you get this started.
It slides down, so it's like.
It's 75,
75.
50, 25. So we can, the state really wants to see this happen, I know personally, I'd like to see it happen, and, Brian Foley, Brian Foley. I can't keep, Brian, I knew a Jim Foley and now I can't remember which one's the first name, and I apologize to Brian for that. So I believe that's all I have for tonight.
I'd like to hear, if you don't mind, would you mind telling us about your visit with the governor and getting?
Oh,
Like to hear about that.
I got a call on Monday at noon from Representative Nuccio saying the governor would like to stop by your office. Are you free? I said, yeah, I think I can make that happen. And, Governor Lamont, or Ned to me.
That was funny, I don't care who you are.
And Representative Nuccio, Tammy to me. Stopped by my office and met with me and Walt Parcell, because Walt's the chair of our planning and zoning. And wanted to talk about 502, which he had vetoed, and how to make it better. And one of the things that he suggested was, because the state sees everything on the same print, whether if they did it by
Capital Region Governments.
yeah, region, council of governments.
Right.
That, whether that would make us less resistant, and I said that I thought that that would, and we explained some of the difficulties to him that we have, with water, sewer, gas, transportation, supermarket, you know, that kind of thing. So I think he began to understand our problem, because when he walks into our town office building, I think it gives him a slightly different air than it takes walking into his office at the Capitol. So I think we took him a little by shock, but he was a very pleasant visit. He sat and he asked questions and listened for more than an hour. So I thought that was great that he took his time to, I think that it's the first time I've heard of a governor visiting our town, so I was glad to have him here.
So
So
any of those issues, things that stuck with you, I mean, that you think.
we discussed a whole bunch of issues, from, you know, special ed,
Costs.
costs, you know, and on and on and on. What I wanted to bring up to him, and because of me, the cost of advertising everything in the newspaper, because I know there's newspaper people in here and I don't want to cause any rift.
No,
But-
I don't think people plural is the right usage.
The cost of advertising in the newspapers is considerable, and I think our return on investment is beginning to shrink in the current environment. We did talk about a lot of things. I wish I had something that stood out to me, but you know, I found him very pleasant, and boy, he either listens very well or has learned to fake it very well. So,
He's very pleasant to everybody. He said hi to everybody on his way through. He
yeah,
had on the coolest belt I've ever seen in my life.
yeah, he had
It was the dancing bears.
the
The
dancing
Grateful
bears.
Dead dancing bears. They were in like rainbow colors. I was like, Governor, I love your belt. He goes, I don't go home. I don't go anywhere without it. I was like,
I didn't know the governor was a Grateful Dead fan, but anyway, so let's get the president to speak. So I think we beat this one pretty much to death. Anybody online? Seeing none, anybody in the room? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Hearing no well, because there is no discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.